This could have been anybody's son in any town USA.
That's right.
This is an upscale neighborhood. These are nice houses on 45th Street. This is not a crime-ridden zone.
And Johnny was not a kid that was out hanging on the streets at night. He was home in his bed at night. He didn't have a social life other than what he did with our family. So he hadn't hit the age where he was a teenager, kind of out doing things on his own.
He was what, 12?
He was only 12.
12 years old. He leaves the house at 5 minutes to 6, and at 11 minutes after 6, he's taken out of your life, and you never see him again till he's an adult. And you call the sheriff, you call the police department, you did all the right things, and the police said, wait 3 days?
Yes. Service award for every month that he had the paper. He was never late, not even once, with delivering a paper. Because he figured out early on that that cost him money. Because the newspaper would deduct every time you had a late paper. And he was a pretty smart little kid. He thought, ooh, I'm not going to have late papers. And that was the only time that his father didn't go with him on a Sunday morning. It's the only Sunday.
Did you blame your husband?
No, no.
Did he blame himself?
I'm sure he blamed himself. But if they were that sophisticated that they had pictures of Johnny ahead of time, they would have found a way to get him. If it hadn't been the paper route, it would have been something else.
It would have been after school or something.
Yeah, or any moment that they might have seen him on his bike riding down the street or something like that, because he was allowed to go around our block and then up to his little friend Mark's house on his bike. Was kidnapped. And before, I always believed that it was like it was on the FBI story with Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. If something bad happened like this, they would set up a command post in your house. They would work the case. Didn't work the case. We had a total shock. After Johnny was kidnapped, it took 45 minutes for the police to even arrive at our home. When they did, I explained to the police everything I knew, because while I was waiting for the police to arrive, I called the manager of the Des Moines Register, and I found out all the boys' names that picked up papers at that corner, and I had already spoken to all of them. And I found out about the man, the description of the man, the description of the car.
And this was with how many hours after Johnny was taken?
That was within the first 45 minutes.
It's in the first 45 minutes?
Yeah, while I was waiting for the police to arrive.
And the police have not arrived yet,
No.
and you've already got
I already had
description
all that.
of the man.
Yeah, I had all that.
Now the police arrive and they tell you what?
The police arrive,
Wait.
so I tell the cop everything I had gathered from all these other witnesses that were there. And the cop looked at me and he said, well, and he's just looking down at the clipboard, and he said, has your son ever run away before? It was like he didn't hear me. And I said, excuse me, didn't you hear what I said? These are what the witnesses are saying. Well, the cop left. That was the completion of the missing persons report. The cop left. We didn't see another police representative until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We were on our own. So we organized searches. We started calling friends and people all over Des Moines and asking them to go out to different areas to search. They searched the state parks, any abandoned wooded areas, places like that where you might think somebody would drop a body if they committed a murder. Suddenly, at our home, a group of about 20 of the volunteers who were searching showed up, and they were very angry, and they asked me a question. They said, we thought you people wanted help. And I said, we do want help. And this person told me, the spokesperson for the search party, that the police chief, Orville Cooney, had gone out to the search site at the state park, got up on a picnic table, and used a bullhorn and yelled to the crowd, everybody go home. The kid's nothing but a damn runaway. That was the police chief. So immediately, when I heard that, I thought, we've got a huge problem. The police aren't even looking. we're the only ones looking for Johnny. So we went back up to the police department, and that was when I was told that they were not going to call in the FBI because the police chief did not feel it was necessary. So I called the FBI office myself, and 2 days later, 2 FBI agents showed up. They came in, sat down, and they explained to us that they were not going to enter the case because the police chief did not want them.
Because Chief Cooney didn't want them.
No. And the police chief basically did everything to shut down the investigation. And
Were you horrified at that?
I couldn't believe it. So at that point, I made the decision, we were hiring a private investigator. We would pool all of our resources, take the cash value out of our life insurance policies, whatever we had to do to hire detectives. Because most of them want a very big retainer to start. So we did that. The police chief became absolutely livid and furious, began screaming and yelling at me, came over to my home and did this, when he found out that I was hiring a private investigator. And he said that I didn't have the right to do so. And I told him that I didn't care what he thought. This was my son, and he wasn't going to look, so he could just step aside and get out of my way. And then I also told the police chief that it wasn't necessary for him to scream and yell because I had perfect hearing. And the man completely lost control and went berserk when I said that.
Did that strike you as odd behavior by a chief of police?
Yes, it did.
Did you ever do a background investigation on Chief Cooney at that time?
Well, he was the town drunk, and he had a lot of problems within his own police department and was accused by 21 of his officers for disorderly conduct while under the influence of alcohol. And he was almost thrown out of office at one point. 4 months after Johnny was kidnapped, I made up my mind that I wasn't going to put up with this any longer, and I was going to get rid of him. So I called members of the city council and I told them I was going to file a $20 million lawsuit against the city and name the police chief as negligent. The following day, the police chief made an announcement from their office that he was retiring and he was not going to work in that public service any longer. And he cited the stress on Johnny Gosch's case as being the reason.
Well, by that time you recognized that Johnny had been kidnapped.
Yes, yes. And
How
I
long did it take
recognized-
Chief Cooney to recognize that Johnny had not run away from home?
Chief Cooney kept Johnny listed in the NCIC computer as a runaway for the first 4 months. It took me 4 months to get his classification changed.
Would it have made any difference looking back now?
The only difference it might have made is if they would have put out an all points bulletin on the car, the description.
If they hadn't thrown away the license plate of the photographer that
Right.
kept clicking pictures of Johnny.
Right. But then the morning of the kidnapping, there was a whole different set of witnesses that also saw the car. Had they put that out on an all points bulletin, as that car sped away from Des Moines, we might have had a chance to recover Johnny, just as they're doing today with the Amber Alert. Many more eyes would be watching. But that technology didn't exist, and we
Right.
did not get any help from the police department.
So the police department were pretty much a waste of time.
Totally a waste of time. And I found out why. It took about 18 years before I found out why.
Why?
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 Why?